Hello? Hey.
Hey, okay.
All right, so we were talking about. So now you're saying that even if it matches a pattern, okay, so even a person. If a person says it's morally bad for a person to use racial slurs as insults, and then we get evidence of Trump using racial slurs as insults, you would say, let's not. Let's not. Well, you would be okay with them criticizing Trump to some degree, but not to the degree that Trump would be pushed out of office, right?
Yeah.
Because you think for some reason that it's not a big deal, or like you think that Trump's not actually going to do anything about it. He's not going to act on those impulses.
I don't know. I really don't want to, pick a hard stance on this either way. I don't think that I could say, 100% he shouldn't lose his job, no matter what he says or whatever. That I disagree with. I think that there are some things that are too far, but again, it would have to really depend on the context.
I suppose I shouldn't be all that. So you were talking about how like people should have the right to hire whoever they want, right? Now, if there are some, now if we have a free market, if we have like a greater free market, the way you would like it, right? People would be able to just hire whoever they want, and then if we come across a business that is hiring only white people, you would be you'd be like, well, that's whatever they want to do. They have the right to do it.
See that as well. I don't want to take a hard stance on. It. I
You were,
don't
s- I
think
think,
that.
I think you were saying that you would have a problem with them doing it, hiring white people just because they're white. That's what you were saying the other time, right?
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
now, how would
but then
you?
again, I mean, how can you prove that? That's another whole issue. It's like, okay, well, everybody at your company is white. Like, well, what if it turned out that in every single instance that you had a white candidate versus a black, Asian, other minority
Uh-huh.
comparison? In every single case, the white candidate just happened to be the better choice, and I don't know. I feel like we.
Okay,
I
and
don't
then
know.
imagine the employer also using racial slurs. All right, and then would you say, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was discriminating against the people? Is that where you would go with that? See, the thing is, when it comes to slurs like that, that's one of the only scientifically provable actions that we have to go off of. And so if we're not going to use that, if you're going to say, well, that doesn't count at yeah, that's one of the only tools we got because people don't tend to openly declare what they're doing unless they're
But I
being
mean,
anonymous.
you've seen. I've seen other people use it that are like. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen any of Louis C.K.'s stand-ups, but he's used the N-word on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even there was a segment where it was him, Chris Rock, Ricky Gervais, and I think it was Jerry Seinfeld. And I think everybody except Jerry Seinfeld is totally fine with saying the N-word. Like they say it no big deal, and it's fine. It's I don't know, but I think that just because you use a racial slur doesn't mean that that's not a scientifically provable action that you are a racist. I disagree that is a scientifically provable action that could even lead towards that. I think that there's plenty of instances where people have used it and are not.
Yeah, I'd say that you're begging the question. I mean, if it feels like you're mixing things up every time. If using that word is going to be the definition of to act like a racist, and we're not going to get anything. All right,
Isn't that what you're
how,
implying, though, by saying that by using racial slurs, that is one of the few scientifically provable actions that we have?
mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you were implying by saying that?
So there are people who believe it's morally bad to use racial slurs as insults, okay?
Okay.
And so that they'll say that fits their definition of to act like a racist, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, once someone does that, the appropriate punishment, or they think that criticizing them to the utmost degree is the logical thing to do, and they might call for the person to be fired. Okay. And they're not necessarily. Yeah, that would be the harshest thing that they would be calling for, really. The way yeah, I mean, and if you're not going to call for someone to be fired in that case, then exactly in what case would you imagine it being appropriate to call for someone to be fired?
I don't have a set definition for that yet, I guess. For what someone would have to say for them to be fired, I don't necessarily have a set definition yet.
Okay. So, yeah, that's basically the issue. So you would be saying that even if a tape came out with Trump saying that, you would say that calling for him to be fired is too much, but you can't imagine when calling for him to be fired would be okay.
Okay, so my interpretation of the Bill Clinton's resignation and everything was because he lied under oath. It's not necessarily the fact that he had the whole affair with Monica Lewinsky and everything. It was the fact that under oath he specifically said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." And then, all right, the dog's getting comfortable on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then not necessarily the same thing with Richard Nixon, but like the crime was also there, but then at the same time there was the cover-up for it. So it seems to revolve a lot around lying and integrity. And saying that word is one thing, but I guess I don't know, just from my interpretation of what I've seen presidents get impeached for, it seems more like they would have to specifically damage their integrity or damage their I don't know. I think it gets into a lot of murky territory and everything, and I don't. No solid definitions. So.
What would you think of? What would you think of Pence being president?
The main criticism against him, I hear, is that he's for camps that turn gay people back into straight people. The I don't know,
yeah,
anti-gay kind of stuff like that. I really don't think he's going to put into practice anything of that nature. So if that's the biggest criticism against him, I don't see anything wrong with that, because I really don't, or not that I don't see anything wrong with him making anti-gay camps. That I want to make a distinction there. That I feel is wrong, but I don't think he's going to do anything in line with that. He's going to follow more of the Republican Party line and try to work with the Senate a little bit more rather than trying to be this kind of bombastic, over-the-top character, which, who knows, they might get more done, but I don't think he's going to be this, over-the-top anti-gay, under President Pence, gays are going to be outlawed. None of that's going to happen.
All right. Okay, so it seems to me that you're going out of your way to try to keep Trump from being criticized to the point of him losing his job, and it still seems strange. Why do you care so much about Trump being overly criticized? I mean, the way I see it, Trump is not an effective president. He's not a normal kind of politician. He's not really able to do the job well. He seems overwhelmed. He can't handle the responsibilities. So why would you?
What makes you say that he's overwhelmed and can't handle the responsibilities?
The very fact that you would ask. All right, so let's move on.
No,
Okay.
but that's my point, though, is a lot of people have these assumptions about him, but that's all that they are, is their assumptions. And, I mean, if you say that he's not very effective and he hasn't gotten a lot done, I'm in 100% agreement with you, because, yeah, his day one plan was, to have the wall, to start plans for Mexico to pay for the wall, and blah, 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 all these other plans that he had on day one that haven't happened now that it's been like 7 months in. So I'm in 100% agreement with you. But the second you start going into he's incompetent, he can't handle this, or whenever other people criticize him and say that it's chaos at the White House and there's so much disorder and stuff, and I feel like a lot of that is assumption, and it seems like that, but no one knows for sure.
What? Oh my goodness, there's so much here. I can't believe you've gone down that far. So
I'm not
so you
one
disagree. You disagree with all of those complaints that you just laid out. You would say that the charge of incompetency is unfair, right? You would say that the charge of chaos is unfair.
I would say it's too soon to say. And then the chaos, I think that okay, I don't know, maybe I'm adding more connotation there than what's meant. But whenever I hear that, it's chaotic over there and all of this stuff is just, if you compare it to previous presidents, then yeah, it's a little more chaotic. But is it chaotic to the point where it's lost control and Trump has no control over the situation? I would disagree. I would say there's no definitive evidence to say otherwise.
Yeah, so it's like that's why I'm starting to wonder. Where do you get your news from? Have you been hearing all of the stories that have been coming out of the White House for the past several months? All right, so let me see if I can just go down some of these.
Okay, wait. Where do you get your news from?
The Young Turks, and let's see, the Majority Report. There's that's another podcast. A YouTuber. Anyway, they get their news from they get their news. They get their sources from the normal mainstream newspapers, CNN, stuff like that. All right, so one of the stories that came out was about right towards the beginning, right after the election, the daily briefings, right? So we
Mhm.
found out that Trump doesn't like to sit through his briefings, right?
Mhm.
And he doesn't seem to have the attention span, right? You heard that story? Have you heard that
That he
they've been
likes to
told to
have
shorten?
bullet points. Yeah, he likes to have simple bullet points to
Yeah,
cover, whole meetings and stuff like that. And hey, just simplify it down
yeah. He
type of
wants
idea.
his briefings to be really short, and he wants pictures and graphs. He wants them to be shortened to 2 pages or whatever it was, right? Even though there are complicated situations that he needs to be informed of, you, can you see how that would be a problem? How he could not handle the amount of information that was expected of him to handle?
Okay. My question is, how do you know that that's coming from a genuine source? How do you know that those people that are reporting that yes, he's asking for those things, but what if the people presenting them are, it's just a really dry, boring report, and they could add a graph that would easily make all of this information much more easily conveyable. Like, how do you know that 100% that no, this is not just a hit piece to make Trump look stupid? Because especially if it's coming from the Young Turks, I would be more inclined to take it with a grain of salt. And I used to think that Washington Post, New York Times were the standard. But even reading, because I have the New York Times app on my phone, I have CNN on my phone, and both of those I've seen them to where they will use specific adjectives to kind of slant it a certain way. It's not overt, and it's not this like, oh, this is happening, but sometimes you just reading the headline and reading through the text and everything, it's really disingenuous is how it comes across.
See, that's why I was asking you where you get your news from. All right, so on the right, are you now willing to tell me where you get your news from?
So I have those two apps on my phone, but at the same time, I'll watch the Rubin Report. Recently, I've started listening to Ben Shapiro's podcast, the Daily Mail, I think is what it's his network or whatever it's called. But mainly a lot of the Rubin Report related stuff, so it's a lot more classical liberal libertarianism. And then other YouTube channels that are in line with libertarianism or talking about the origination of classical liberalism, and again, Sargon of Akkad, which we can get into his video if you want to at some point. But yeah, but
So
I like a lot of Sargon's points.
on a daily basis, so you just get your news, you get your news from those newspapers. Is that it for the daily?
From
Yeah.
the Daily what?
Yeah, basically on the day-to-day basis, the things that Trump is doing, the things that he's tweeting, you learn about that basically from the mainstream newspapers. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. So when those newspapers say a senior White House official has informed us that Trump is not paying attention during his briefings, would you say, "Oh, well, how do I know? This newspaper is disingenuous. Maybe I shouldn't trust them. They're
No,
just trying to make."
I would immediately say this is not news. I would say, okay, a senior White House official, so it's not somebody on the record, it is somebody telling you anonymously that Trump is not paying attention during meetings. I don't know this person, I don't know this person's views or this person's whatever, and it turns out to where it's like a telephone game. But I mean, Fox News has even been accused of this as well, and proven guilty of it as well with what was it, I forget the guy's name, but the DNC staffer who was killed.
Seth Rich.
And Seth Rich, and yeah, they were trying to, but it wasn't even a telephone game. It was like they found a guy and asked him to kind of repeat this back to him or something. It was like a completely falsified story. And then it just recently came out that maybe Trump was helping that along, which I would agree that that's completely... That's morally bad. There's no way around that. You are strictly trying to divert attention away from other things by making up a story. By
Wait a minute. Are you willing to state for the record a new moral view? Is this going to be just your second? Okay, so it's morally bad to act hypocritically, and what?
And it's morally bad for Trump to get as specific as possible.
No.
No, but no.
I find it problematic that you are doubting those kinds of newspaper reports just because you don't know the senior White House official that leaked the information. Do you find it strange that the Trump White House would be upset with all of these leaks if those leaks are untrue? If you don't believe that the leaks were even true, then why would Trump be so upset about them? Why do they even call them leaks? They actually call them leaks internally.
See, I disagree. I think that there are certain leaks that are occurring that are leaking classified information. To my understanding, that is illegal in all sense of a leak. But if it's a leak about, Trump's not paying attention during his press meetings, I mean, I don't know. To me, that comes across as like, I don't know, but whatever. To me, that's not classified information. To me, I don't care. But if you're specifically leaking classified information that is occurring behind closed doors and is being said by people that don't fully understand what the situation is going on, or maybe they do, but they're still leaking classified information, I would still say that's illegal. You signed a contract when you got into whatever position you're in to where you can hear confidential information. And you are breaking that contract by leaking that information. The crackdown on leaks I don't see as a morally bad thing or a really terrible thing. I think that you're getting your house in order. I don't think that's a sign.
I'm just trying to find out what angle I should go at this from, because it's just amazing how far down you've gone. You're not gonna. It seems like you're not gonna criticize Trump for anything. And you don't believe anything negative that comes out in the newspapers about Trump. You're willing to you're trying to come up with all kinds of explanations for what, to make it seem like actually what the news coming out about Trump is not really what's happening. You're trying to find any explanation you possibly can to explain it away. No.
It's not so much that I'm trying to explain it away so that way I can give him a pass. I'm just giving you an opposite possibility to where
everyone knows about those. Everyone knows about alternate possibilities. Yeah, it could be that aliens came and they took over Trump's body and they did it. They have the technology.
No, but half the time the logical. I mean, the simpler explanation, like the aliens coming down and this happening, that is not the simpler explanation. Half the time, the simpler explanation is he's doing this because X, and everybody assumes it's Y. But half the time that X is the more logical, simpler Occam's razor answer, then it makes Y look silly. And I think that, especially in that podcast between Sam Harris and Scott Adams, I think that Scott Adams illustrates that perfectly, where he has a logical, strategic explanation for every action that is brought up by Sam Harris about Trump, and
Okay,
Hey, you know what?
if you're gonna call that logical, then you have to adopt Adam's views. All right.
Okay, I would say that they're strategic though. The way that Adams specifically describes each of the actions that Trump takes is they're all for a strategic gain in
So
either winning the election or
you're saying that Trump
satisfying.
had a specific strategy, and he's implementing the strategy. He's doing the things that are strategically good. But Trump has not stated those views, those strategies on the record, has he?
But does he have to? I mean, that's
In order for it to
under.
be provable, yeah.
But he doesn't have to prove it to you because his base believes it. It doesn't matter what he has to prove because his base understands and believes him.
You're
To
saying
them, it's
understand
true.
and believe as if they're not assuming. So when it's the left thinking that it's for some certain reason, you call that an assumption. And when it's the right who believes Trump is doing something for a reason, you call that an understanding. You're saying that the right understands why Trump is actually doing those actions, and that the left is simply assuming the wrong thing. All right, so
But they've been proven right in that case, though. Has he gone out and banned all Muslims from coming to the U.S.? No. He's banned high terrorism areas. And it falls into that practice and it falls into that strategic big offer and then roll it back a little bit. The left has seen
again,
it
I'm
as
gonna
okay,
say
sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna say that if you're gonna say that his strategy, that he had a strategy, and it's working, you're gonna have to show where Trump stated that that's his strategy. That's where that's what it's
But he
gonna
doesn't
come
have to
back down
state
to.
his strategy. Under your example, people would have to state it, but we don't live under that example. So he doesn't have to state it, and it's working.
You just claimed it's working without evidence again. It could be that it's working. It could be that he has
Okay,
this strategy, and it could be that it's working.
in the sense of him trying to persuade voters to vote for him, it worked because he won. That is a scientifically provable thing. He won the election.
Yes, he won, but you didn't prove that it was because of his pre-thought out strategy, because he did not state that those lies were actually part of a strategy. Uh, you can't scientifically prove a person is lying, but all right. Now, I wanted to get back to. Yeah, it's problematic that you're not even gonna. You're not gonna. So okay, so you want all of the leakers to be on the record. All right. So basically, you
See,
should want
okay.
24/7 surveillance, right? Because that's
So
the only way that you're going to
I
believe.
so I have a more see, yeah, that's another thing that I'm still kind of on the fence about with the whole Edward Snowden kind of like. There's certain things I do believe the public should know about, and if it comes about through leaks, it's not necessarily a morally bad thing, but the fact that you did sign a contract or you are leaking stuff that you have agreed to not leak, there's a big contradiction there, but at the same time, the public knowing about it, like I guess a good example is the Russia hacking of the DNC. Whether or not Russia did it, I guess that's still kind of. I mean, as far as my knowledge, I thought that everybody was like, no, yeah, it was definitely Russia that did it. But I mean, as far as I know, I think it still is Russia. But the fact that information still came out, that they specifically tried to shun Bernie from becoming the Democratic nominee, and they specifically did things so that way he wasn't going to win, and they favored Hillary over him, and all these other shady dealings that were going on at the DNC. I believe that all of those should have came to light, but the means that they happened or the way that it happened is not necessarily morally good. I don't know.
Okay, so
So I still have a conflicted view on this whole subject, and I haven't solidified
By
a.
the way, have you come up with the science of joking?
Science of joking.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, you're going to have to be able to scientifically prove a person is joking.
See, I think that if you were to have a setting to where it is specifically like, okay, we are in logical debate mode right now. If you want a joke, you have to mention, hey, this is a joke, or else afterwards this can be taken at full face value. Then I could understand that. But if you were to say that, you know, every statement is under criticism, whether it's in logical debate or outside of logical debate, and somebody said something that could be considered joking or whatever, I don't know. I feel like that's a big gray area.
Yeah. So you're going to have to get on to that. Yeah, start working those details out. All right, so, yeah, I have a problem with the idea that you're trying to find, again, the idea that a major newspaper would write a story and say something that they claim comes from a senior White House official, and the White House responds to those claims, that the White House will respond to the newspaper story with anger that the information was leaked. And yet you will still try to find a way to say, oh, wait a minute, maybe that was like a trick that the newspaper played on the White House, or maybe because the name of the White House official was not revealed, it's not news. That's a problem.
See, I think that news has become so biased now that you don't believe so? You don't think that news organizations...
No, there are things that... I don't like when people say that. It's like there's one side that's... There are things that are true that you can trust to be consistently true, like from the mainstream media, okay? And then there are the people who don't...
Give me an example.
Then there are the conspiracy theorists, the people who don't like what's true, and so they claim that the other side is the biased one. All right, that's what's happening.
Give me an example of something that is empirically true that somebody has reported on.
Another example? Okay, so I told you about the presidential briefings, and that's evidence of Trump not being able to handle the job. There was that incident where Trump invited.
Is that scientifically provable that he's incapable and he's incompetent of handling the job if he's bored at the meetings, or if he asks for more? Like I feel like I demonstrated that that's not an adequate connection to make. To say that, oh well, somebody said, a White House correspondent or a White House official said he was bored and he wanted more pictures. Does that, by definition, if you want more pictures in your presentations, does that mean you're bored and incompetent? No, that's somebody's interpretation of it. Is that again? That's not true 100% pure empirical evidence. That's one person's interpretation of it.
Is it news or is it not? First, you have to make up your mind. Okay. Are you going to count that as news or not?
I would not count that as news. I would say that this is BS. This is complete. This is a waste of my time.
Oh my goodness.
Give me a scientific action that he has committed, and I will talk about the morality of that action is.
He's not paying attention during the meetings. Okay, it's not. There's no reason for
what is the content
this to be
of
a
the
lie.
Meeting? What if it's a
They're talking about the situation. They're talking about the situations around the world, and what's going on in the battlefields.
Are those all equal? What if it's talking about something that's going on up in Siberia? Why do we care? That's not a big deal. That doesn't involve us. That who cares? Like that just
He's
because
the leader of the
it's
world.
mentioned.
You don't want your president to be able to handle, to come up with
Okay,
policy to deal with the rest of the
okay.
world?
I think the distinction that needs to be made is by me bringing up an opposing viewpoint does not mean I'm defending Trump. I am not defending him and saying he is a perfectly competent individual and everything. I'm just saying that your argument saying that a White House correspondent is saying that he is not paying attention, that is not good enough evidence to make me think this is 100%, this is an incompetent person. I mean, what if he's 100% competent, knows what he's talking about, and he's already researched the whole thing, and this is a waste of time. He knows the whole situation before going in. I'm saying there's 1,000 possibilities. I'm not explaining away that he is perfect. He is this perfect messiah that we all need. I don't care. But I'm saying if that's your best effort and that's your empirical evidence that he's incompetent, that's a weak argument.
So what if it was backed up by other, like some of these stories have gotten multiple confirmations from other people in the administration. So how many sources would they have to claim there are for you to think, you know what, maybe there's something to this?
Again, it's not concrete.
So
Okay,
you're never.
Same thing with Bill O'Reilly and Bill Cosby. Like, how many women does it take for you to think, oh no, he did it? How many women is it? Okay, well, at what point, at what number? You don't need a conviction. It's just how many women does it take to file suit against this person to say that they've done these things, but not get a conviction? And once a conviction happens and you have proven it, okay, I can't argue against that. That is 100%. That is proven in a court of law. That is it. That is a conviction. That is okay. This person has done it. But until then, it's all speculation, whether by you, by several White House officials that we don't know their names, that are speaking anonymously to a news organization that is specifically against Trump on almost every single article that they put out.
You say that as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it is a bad thing when they...
Morally bad? If Trump is consistently doing things that are bad for the country, the newspapers would consistently be criticizing him or, be against him in a sense. Doesn't mean that they're lying or saying things that are untrue.
So I would go back to my healthy criticism argument that, yeah, healthy criticism is necessary. And if you believe that he is doing something wrong, I believe that you should be able to speak up about it. You should mention it. But
it seems like...
I feel like these are weak arguments against him.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that it's unconvincing when no matter what the newspapers, no matter what the mainstream media says, whenever they have unnamed sources, you will say, "Well, it's just speculation." And then once the sources are named, you would still say what exactly? That they're just making it up. They're probably just making it up. See, there's a scale. There's a scale of there's a degree. Things are on the scale such that there's a point where I become convinced about what's happening based on the amount of evidence. So in this case, it's going to be the amount of witnesses that the newspapers claim that they have, and the amount of confirmation from different sources. That's when I tend to believe something is true. All right. So what you're saying is that technically, technically he hasn't been charged. He hasn't been convicted in the court. Therefore,
by that definition, if I got 100 people together to say that the sky is green, yeah, that's 100 people. Yeah, that's a lot of witnesses. That's a lot of people to say that something is true
on the record.
Yeah, 100
with their
people have
names?
on the record said that the sky is green. Yes, with their names.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be more inclined to agree that, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm colorblind. Maybe the sky is green.
Their definition of
I do not believe that the number of people means that it is more factually correct. The more people believe it, the more it is correct. I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
all right. So then, is there anything that you've seen in the news that is true? Is there
Like,
anything that Ben Shapiro has said that is true? For example, he said that he went to a college campus, and let me see. He hasn't been. Has he been kicked off? Have there been protests against Shapiro at college campuses? I forgot. But yeah, so just pick
I
something.
want to say yes, but I
Just
don't
pick
know for
something
sure.
that Shapiro has claimed on his show. Just pick anything.
Well, the biggest thing that I disagree with is all the God stuff. But outside of that, I mean, he doesn't shove it down your throat. But
What does it?
you know,
Has he claimed anything to be true, ever?
he makes a lot of generalizations on the left and everything. But as far as
I just
specific,
Yeah, I just heard him. I just heard him on Joe Rogan, and he talked about how, um, yeah, he didn't like the comment that Trump made on, to Billy Bush about grabbing women, right? So from that, that implies that he believes that Trump actually said those words. Do you think Trump actually said those words?
what words are you talking about?
That you
The
can just
the
grab, that's grabbing women.
yeah.
Why do you believe he said that? I mean,
That Trump said it?
why do you think that that's true? Couldn't it be that Shapiro is just making it up?
No, but I've specifically heard the tape.
Yeah, it
I've
could have
heard.
been doctored.
So you're trying to go into the. So you're trying to make the comparison that my
You'll never believe
criticism
anything is
is
true.
is is unhealthy and is going too far to believe that it's untrue.
Yeah, you're being too skeptical of everything in the
No,
mainstream media.
I would disagree. I would agree that everybody believes that tape is true, Trump included. Everybody is on board with like no, that 100% that's true. But at the same time, there is a large number of people that are against Trump and are against anything that he does because of the sole fact that he is Trump.
Who
And
says
because
that?
anybody on the left, any Democrats, that
I'm a
literally all of them
Democrat.
are.
I'm on the left. You're smearing me. You're smearing the people I know of. You're smearing the Young Turks. You're smearing all these people.
I'm surprised you defend the Young Turks. That's like they use more generalizations than anybody I've seen before. Or Cenk is the most condescending person I've ever seen.
Is it possible to scientifically prove a person is condescending?
You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
No, you want to go into it. You said it. He's the most condescending person I've ever seen. What does that mean exactly?
he is the most condescending person ever.
Yeah, so you just repeated it. Yeah, so yeah, I pretty much would like they don't use the rules of logical debate, and that's where I would disagree with them whenever they're breaking those rules. All right, but
Okay.
otherwise, yeah, I believe that the things that they report on are true. When they're quoting the mainstream newspapers, those reports are, for the most part, true. And when they're not true, they tell you that it's not true. That it turns out that this report may have been a, over exaggerated, or exaggerated or fake. Yeah, but for the most part, it's true what they write. I believe that the newspapers are not lying, or intentionally saying. They're not saying things that are untrue for the most part. And it fits. It fits. There's a pattern of Trump not being able to absorb large amounts of information. All right. So he wanted his briefing to be made smaller, allegedly, and have graphs and pictures. And then we find out that when he was going on his world trip, on his tour to those few countries, they had to make tweet-sized bullet points, so that allegedly, so that he would be able to absorb it, because otherwise. Oh, and also they were mentioning his name in each paragraph to make to keep his attention, allegedly, right? Because he keeps reading if he keeps seeing his name mentioned, right? So all of this fits into a pattern, and that lends it more credibility, in my view, and that's why I believe it's true. But you're saying that actually all of that is a very so you tend to believe, hey, technically it's possible that these people were conspiring. Even the people in his own administration are conspiring to put together this picture of how he's not able to memorize a lot of information. You find.
No, I would say that a pattern is not proof.
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah, there
say,
you go.
yeah, and that's it. That's basically it. Is until you give me 100%, proof that he's incompetent.
All right. So then, what's your argument against putting cameras in the White House, just monitoring everyone?
So you want to get back to
Yes.
the
Yes.
24-hour
That's that's where it's going to end up. Yes. You say you want 100% proof. Okay. So then, video video evidence is what's going to be required.
And this would be all over the world, correct?
Well, in America at first, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
that would
so
be
how do you
great if it were.
reconcile? Okay, well, I would argue that it has to be all over the world first, because you have enemies of America that could then monitor these cameras as well and
Yeah.
use it to their advantage. So
Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
would
too
say that
bad.
no, I would say 100% this has to be all over the world before it can't just be America first. It has to be everywhere.
Did you just come up with that rule?
No, thought of this a while ago, just because of national defense reasons and
Uh huh.
uh, anything along those lines. Anything classified would then be therefore viewable by anybody else throughout the world. So it would have to be 100% perfect surveillance for every human being on the planet.
And so, if there are countries that do not want to submit to 24/7 surveillance, then that would mean that we we wouldn't have it here. You would say that we would have to wait until everyone agrees, and then we all do it at the same time. That's what you're saying. You would
Or I
only
don't know.
be.
I mean, America could just like put it in place. I don't think the rest of the world is going to stop America from doing it. I think that I don't know.
All right, so then
Uh,
you're open to the possibility of America just going first and being the leader. All right? All right, so then we've gotten rid of that. All right, so in order for us to get 100% proof that Trump actually is not competent, so to speak, and that he is not that Pence
how do
would
you
be
define
better.
competent?
Okay, so okay, I just want to point out you have a really low bar for Trump. You're saying
Yeah.
that, no, wait a minute, let me
Okay.
say this. Okay, because because clearly you believe that when it comes to a company, companies only hire the people who have the best abilities. Uh, they're incentivized to have only the best, most intelligent people working for them, right? Oh, well, that's what. Let me see. That Gavin McInnes, yeah, he at one point said that no company would ever discriminate against someone who's really smart. That would be against their profit motive, and they say that it doesn't happen. So, so yeah. So, why is it that why is it that you have such a low bar for Trump? You don't mind if he seems to not be able to handle a lot of information. Why don't you mind that? But when it comes to working at a company, like for example, at your company, so like, would you be okay with Trump working next to you in the lab?
So I'll agree he's not the most presidential candidate that we've ever had, or he's the least presidential candidate we've ever had. But I don't know, because there's been the first example that comes to mind is Winston Churchill being a well-known alcoholic and giving his speeches drunk while still kind of carrying a nation forward and still being able to do his job as prime minister and everything. And so I don't know. It's a weird gray area to see certain character flaws and whether or not that disqualifies somebody from being a leader or from being able to do their job. If okay, yeah, if you have somebody that is an alcoholic or somebody that has a major character flaw and is not this perfect, messiah person, I feel like you're never going to find that individual. But some people are better at hiding it than others. But I don't know, maybe some people are just really closer to perfect than the rest of us. But I don't know, and I
What about Pence? Is Pence better than? Would Pence be a better? Would Pence be closer to perfect than Trump?
are you
This is
asking what
this
I
is so
prefer?
freaking strange that you're hesitating on this. You're okay. Let's just wrap this up. I
Okay,
just want to tell
honestly, it's
you.
because I haven't really thought about it as much. I really thought of like, okay, the main arguments I've seen against Pence are just the whole anti-gay stuff, and then Trump. The only way I see him getting impeached is if they find 100% solid evidence of him doing a quid pro quo with Russia. That's the only way that I see it happening. Because at this point, it's everything is overblown, everything is over the top and ridiculous. But
See, there you going. There you going again. There you go again. Criticizing people who are criticizing him. You just did it right there. It's everything.
is that not is
You're
that not
exaggerating, are
fair?
you not? You're exaggerating. Every
Am I
criticism
though?
of Trump is ridiculous.
I would say the vast majority of them are.
All right, so yeah, I just want to say that I do find it strange that you're trying to find every conceivable explanation that would keep Trump from being criticized, and you're not believing any report that would come out of the White House. The people who would be closest to him are. It seems that the people closest to him in his administration are leaking information, and yet you're not going to believe those. Okay,
Okay, who is
and
a president that you
because,
admire?
huh?
who is a president that you admire, or any sort of leader that you admire, or anyone that you think it did a good job or is currently doing a good job?
Why? Obama.
Well, okay,
Obama.
well,
Let's go with
okay,
Obama.
well, okay, we'll go with Obama. Imagine if Fox News came out and said a White House correspondent or a White House official has said that Obama is nodding off and falling asleep during meetings, or he doesn't care about what's happening. What would you immediately think?
That's a problem. That's a freaking problem. Yeah, it would make me think, what is Obama doing? Why is he falling asleep? Why
You
would he
wouldn't
be-
think that this is coming from Fox News, so I have to take this with a grain of salt. So Fox News does have an agenda. They are a conservative news network. They are specifically aiming this towards, like, against Obama, and nobody else is reporting about this. It's strictly just, Fox News. They're the only ones reporting about this. Is this really news? Yet none of that would cross your mind. You would immediately think, you know what? This is wrong. He shouldn't be falling asleep during his meetings. You wouldn't consider the validity of it at all.
What are you talking? Are you First of all, are you saying that Trump is someone you admire and you think he's doing a good job?
No, I am not saying that I admire him, nor do I think that he is doing a fantastic job as president. I'm just giving the example of, okay, what if this report was to come out over somebody that you are either neutral or in favor of? If you're against that person,
If they have evidence, of, okay, so if Fox News reports on something and they have evidence that something is happening, then I would want to see the evidence. I would want to double check what they're saying.
okay, what if it's just a White House correspondent or a White House official that is remaining unnamed that they have on record saying, Obama was falling asleep during meetings, or wanted more pictures, or wanted his name mentioned more often? None of that is evidence. It is not hard evidence. No, it's not. It's hearsay. It's one person saying one person's word over another person. Who cares?
It's not just
This is
one
not
in my
news.
example. In my example, though, it wasn't just one person. There are multiple. Yeah, so you would have to, because it's Fox News, you would have to look at how, the credibility of the other stories they've reported on, all right? Now, if you're saying you stipulated that Fox News would be the only one that has this story, the only one that's reporting on it, and you also stipulated that they would be quoting only one source from the White House, okay?
What if it was multiple and it's just Fox News?
Then that
It's just
increases
Fox
the
News.
credibility of it, okay? Now, I would take into account, the past, the history of the source, the Fox News. I would take into account the fact that they've said many things that have turned out not to be true. The fact that they often say things that are not true. They're not a reliable source in my view. All right? And so I would look for the other side of it. I would look for the truth of it, of what's going on from other sources. But if you're saying that there are no other people reporting on it, then yeah, I would take it with a grain of salt based on Fox News' history. And I would like to see the counter evidence, or whatever evidence they have. I would be curious about that. All right.
Yeah, okay.
But you're saying no matter what happens, until there's 100% proof and a conviction, you will not believe anything negative about Trump. You're gonna say in the middle. It's like you're saying I'm in the middle. I'm not saying Trump is perfect, but I'm also not saying that he's flawed. And until there's 100% proof that he's flawed, I'm going to consider the possibility that actually he's really good at his job, and there's just the people around him are sabotaging or possibly.
See, I mean, again, I don't think that he's good at his job either. But is he a menace to society that is going to burn America? No. But is he incompetent? I feel like that's debatable. Is that a 100% provable fact? No. Is he the greatest president that we've ever had? God, no. He is not. He is so he can't get his own together, and he can't get a bunch of other shit together. So,
yeah, it is really frustrating that you're going that far. For Trump, I mean, just goodness gracious. I mean, even Republicans in the Senate and Congress are starting to pull away from Trump. You know, and yet you're going to go right down, huh?
They've always been pulling away from him. The entire time during the primaries, they were all trying to get away from him, thinking he was like gonna fall apart.
And
somehow he won the election.
Yeah, because of people like you who started. Well, you changed only after the election. Who spoke to you?
Who spoke to me?
Yeah, who got you this suddenly
switch? It wasn't necessarily anybody that spoke to me. I did talk to my parents a lot, which they live up in Oklahoma, and they've always been diehard Republicans. But I was arguing with them all the way up to the election and everything. And even after the election, I think I still argued with them that I voted for Hillary, and I was very, very surprised during Election Day, but it really made me sit down and kind of think, like, you know, I really thought that the stereotypical Trump supporter was the majority of Trump supporters, the racist, misogynistic, I don't know, just all of those, you know, applied name-calling, you know, ideas and stuff. But after the election, I really kind of like thought to myself, like, you know, I know my parents are not racist. I know my parents are not misogynistic, and I know
what definition.
The vast majority of these people are not what people have been labeling them.
That depends on the definition, doesn't it?
Agreed, but this was my thought process at the time.
Okay, go ahead.
But that was it basically. Is that like these people can't be all racist? They can't. Maybe there is something to what they're saying. I'll hear them out. And mainly it was through watching the Rubin Report was the first thing that I discovered. That's how I discovered Sam Harris and a lot of other stuff and everything. But I really like that format of just having people explain their views and hearing them out. And not... I think that I initially watching the Rubin Report, I really wanted him to kind of press them harder and really try to criticize their views, but I don't think that that's what the Rubin Report is. I think it's really... He's just there to let the other person explain and talk and hang themselves if they want to, but it's just them.
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Yeah,
no,
it's like,
I really like that premise where Dave Rubin has somebody on and lets them.
So then he can have anyone on. Why doesn't he just have anyone on then?
He does.
I mean, why doesn't he have just anyone?
He has people from all spectrums and everything, but usually people with some sort of following. But he'll talk with these people and understand what their views are. But then recently he had I think it was Michael Shermer and Dennis Prager had their theist versus atheist kind of argument, and I feel that I just feel that that's not his platform. Rubin should really just do one-on-one conversations with people, have them explain their full views, and then in some other format or some other debate style, have somebody that has two opposing views on the Rubin Report come together and really flesh out the debate between the two. But I feel like nobody else is doing that, to where somebody can sit down and really.
It's like you're saying that's a good thing. That what Rubin is doing is good because he's not challenging them. He's not challenging them, and it's a shame that no one else.
The idea before somebody cuts them off and then immediately jumps right into, you know, this is wrong, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, and it's not okay. Debates do not go the way that you would envision them to. It's not even the Cenk Uygur and Ben Shapiro debate was really underwhelming because nobody's mind was changed. It's them talking to the audience. It's them getting cheers or boos or whatever, and them going back and forth and saying, no, I'm more right. No, you're stupid, and this is stupid. And Shapiro at least was trying to ask questions at Cenk, and Cenk was really just like pointing out how stupid people in the audience were, and it was frustrating to watch.
He answered his points. He had to come back for everything.
But I feel like he didn't. I don't know. I wanted them to actually talk back and forth. And
okay, so like there was a point.
Shapiro is just as guilty. Shapiro is just as guilty to where he was asking questions just to get cheers and boos and everything. But I am biased. I absolutely hate Cenk, and I do like Ben Shapiro's views a little bit more, or at least his articulation and his questioning. But
Cenk answered all of his challenges. That's what I saw. Cenk even, whenever Shapiro asked him what level of taxation is the ideal level, right? And Cenk answered that. He basically said, in the past,
is it close to zero? But he didn't answer that one.
That's because Cenk already has admitted that he believes that there's a limit to it, right?
No,
and he's saying
he said, is it closer to 100 or is it closer to zero? Cenk didn't answer that, but I'm pretty sure he leans more towards the closer to 100%. But again, it gets all into the Laffer curve and where you believe that the peak is at. Where libertarians and Republicans would all agree it's closer to zero, and liberals and more Democrats would lean more towards 100%. But
yeah, so anyway, what I saw was that Cenk was answering all of those criticisms, and it was Shapiro who didn't respond to Cenk's claim about, let me see, there was something that, Shapiro claimed that the banks were giving out loans to people who could not, they were giving out mortgages or loans to people who couldn't pay them back because that's what the government was forcing them to do. And Cenk basically was like, so you're saying that the banks didn't want to, they were forced to make more money off of people. The government was twisting the bankers' arms, remember that part?
Yeah, but my understanding
please
is...
don't make me make $1 million more. Please don't make me make $1 million more,
But they're not making that money, though. They're lending it out, and these people do not have the means to pay it back, so then the bank gets fucked. They can't demand the money back.
You don't need to use that kind of language. You just calm down, okay? Just breathe, okay? Shapiro was claiming that the banks were basically forced by the government to make more money, make more
because
profit.
They're discriminating if they don't lend out that money. They're discriminating on poor people if they do not lend out that money. So they are forced to therefore agree to the loan, give these people the loan money with high interest rates, and when the people can't pay it back, the bank is screwed.
No, they get bailed out. They were bailed out.
Exactly, but that's the problem.
So they made profit. And the bankers...
But they shouldn't. That's not how it should work. It should not be bailed out. The government should not pay them off. It should be you loan them the money. If they can't pay it, they go into debt, and you try to get your money back. It's not, the government just comes in and makes it all better and wipes that debt away.
And
that's not how it should work. And it's not the fact that the government is, we're forcing you to make more money. No, we're forcing you to go out of business, and then the government is then paying you in the end. It's a failed system.
Who taught you
so
that?
I feel that Shapiro didn't have to explain that.
It was Shapiro. All right. Okay, so basically, that stuff that you just said about what happened with the banks, that's Shapiro's view about what he thinks is true. And yet you spoke about it as if it actually happened, as if loans were given to people who could not pay them back. Why do you believe that's true? I'm sure the mainstream media agrees with that view, so doesn't that make you want to doubt it? Also, you said that you wanted to talk about did you bring up the issue in the email that you wanted to bring up?
I think so. The issue in the email. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we covered the email thing.
All right. So
But
basically, yeah, I still want you to review the rules that I was talking the debate rules, because I'm sure you still don't have a grasp on it. So I do want you. So maybe like I'll send you tell you a specific section of something on YouTube and ask you to apply the rules to it and see if you can actually do it, because I'm not sure that you can. And then we'll see. We'll go from there. All right.
okay,
Yeah. So
so wait, you're gonna give me a topic and I have to
yeah, I want.
go.
There's gonna be a section of video of someone speaking. They're gonna be
Okay.
making claims, breaking the rules of debate, and I want you to go through and say which rules that they're breaking at what point, just to
Okay.
see if you can do it. All
Okay.
right. Uh, yeah, yeah. Okay, and yeah, other than that, so just know that I think it's ridiculous that you don't believe something is true unless Shapiro has claimed that it's true. You won't believe it if it comes straight from the main news. In fact, you should go ahead and check what Shapiro is saying about the daily briefing. You should check out that, and you should check what Shapiro thinks about yeah, all of the other news stories that have been printed about the leaks. The leaks. See if Shapiro believes that there are such things as leaks. See to what degree he believes those leaks are actually happening. All right, because I think you'll be surprised to see that he actually believes in some of those leaks. All right. Yeah, you're too
Well, like,
skeptical.
do you know the leak specifically, or like specific
There have been
examples?
leaks every week. There have been leaks every week since he's been in office. Leaks from within the campaign. Yeah, just there's just too many to go through. All
I
right.
know they've been cracking down on them and everything,
They've
but
been
as
trying
far
to,
as
and then the fact that they were trying to crack down on them got leaked. That's what I believe. So the very fact that
I
they would
thought that
have meetings saying,
Sessions was the one who said it, though, that like it's been, I don't know, the number of like leak investigations has tripled in the past week or something. I thought he just stated that. At least that's how it was kind of written on the New York Times. But yeah, as
anyway,
far as
yeah, there's a lot of leaks happening, and the fact that they're trying to crack down on leaks has been leaked, even though that was a secret conversation. So anyway, all right, so that's basically it for now, okay? So,
okay,
all right, so then I'll talk to you later.
all
Talk to you
right,
later, okay? Bye.
see ya, bye.